Your vote is going to be very important tomorrow because the world is watching Wisconsin. The world is watching. They're seeing if this momentum from this incredible movement is going to be slowed down. And again, I think in 2 weeks we're going to be huge victories all over the place. But I'd like it to really, the end would be here. The end will be here.
This is the moment. This is when those who seek to derail the Trump train are going to get their wish, and the man who has taken the reins of the Republican Party will be defeated, whipped, sent wailing into the night, licking his wounds, realizing it's all over. Time to go back to allegedly building skyscrapers and hosting reality TV shows. Take a breath, okay? Of course, we have heard all this before from the anti-Trumpettes. They have said it time and time again. And every time before, it has been hammered down with reality. Donald Trump still leads for the Republican presidential nomination. So let's get some reality then about what Wisconsin will mean tomorrow night to this narrative. And if indeed voters there are prepared to hand both Donald Trump and Democratic leader Hillary Clinton a glimpse into their future, neither camp wants to admit is becoming a real possibility. From ground zero then, welcome an assistant professor in the Department of Political Science at Marquette University, Professor Paul Nolette. Professor, thanks so much for joining us, and let me begin right here. What is it that sets Wisconsin voters apart from the other states? And I say that because Scott Walker seems to feel that in many ways, of course, he's the governor, but that these are the most intelligent, well-informed political voters in the country.
Well, if I do say so myself, Wisconsin voters certainly are well-informed, I think. But I do think, one thing that's really in some ways unique about Wisconsin is that it's a very, very polarized state. And certainly the United States in general is polarized. But even within Wisconsin, you have some very, very strong political divisions. And even within Wisconsin itself, both the Republican side and the Democratic side both have all of the different coalitions and parts of the party represented here. So it's a very kind of hodgepodge of a lot of politically informed voters and from different parts of the party.
What's your take then on the fact that this is an open primary? And as I look at a lot of the pundits here, they seem to feel that it is more likely that people will go and cross over to the Democratic Party than cross over to the Republican side. You agree with that?
No, I think that there's going to be more people voting in the Republican side. You will see a higher turnout there, which will also be consistent with what we've seen in previous primaries as well. But as far as the open primary goes, that's something that, at least on paper, should benefit both Trump and Sanders, who have done well in open primaries so far.
Fair to say, too, that what we have here is a conservative political network. You've got 13 state Senate, 2 statewide recall elections held since Scott Walker became the governor 5 years ago. I mean, let's go back to what I mentioned here at the top. This is a very intelligent electorate because they've been through these processes. They understand this. I almost get the feeling that Wisconsin's one of those states where the people go, don't try to fool us, been here before.
That's right. And Wisconsin, another thing I'd mention there is that, and this plays into the well-informed aspect, is that Wisconsin consistently, both in general elections and in primaries, has one of the highest turnouts of any state. And so I expect turnout to be very high. And again, like I mentioned before, probably more people voting on the Republican side, but just in general, you're going to see a lot of people going out to the polls tomorrow.
What is it from a philosophy side that you can grab? Because Donald Trump gets a very certain type of voter, so does Ted Cruz, so does Hillary Clinton, so does Bernie Sanders. Can you kind of guess, at least on both sides, the right and the left, which one seems to be most aligned with the Wisconsin voter and what they look for in a candidate?
So on the Republican side, at least on paper, Ted Cruz is not really a great fit for Wisconsin. There aren't a lot of evangelical voters in Wisconsin, which Cruz has appealed to throughout much of the campaign. However, at the same time, in much of the Milwaukee suburbs, which at least here in Wisconsin is in many ways the base of the Wisconsin Republican Party, a lot of votes coming out of the counties right around Milwaukee County, are not fans of Trump. And I think you're going to have a lot of Republican voters who end up voting for Cruz or possibly for Kasich, really to try to stop Trump. Trump support is definitely stronger as you move north and west in the state.
30 seconds. What about on the left, on the Democratic side?
Sure. And on the left, on paper, Sanders should do well in Wisconsin. It has a progressive history, and in fact, it even has a socialist history, at least in Milwaukee, with socialist mayors. So I think, Sanders, at least on paper, should do well in the state.
Donald Trump seems to feel that Governor Kasich is taking votes away from him. 15 seconds. Who do you think he is taking votes from?
Yeah, I think Kasich is drawing some votes that would probably go to Cruz, more likely, I think, at this point.
And we just have to sit back and watch. I'll tell you what, out of all the states we've been here thus far, simply because Wisconsin has this great political bend to them, and the people there are spending so much time getting to know the candidates, I think this is going to be very fun for most people. Of course, for some people, by the time it's all done, it will not be fun at all. Professor Paul Nolette, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your expertise. Now, Republicans need to make a very hard choice. Democrats are also there, but at a different level. And it's all about those looming conventions and who's willing to understand what needs to be done. That's coming up in The Political Animal, next on The Hard Line.